Misty Lown, the founder of More Than Great Dancing, it's just great to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So tell us, what was going on in children and dancing that caught your attention and you thought, I think I can do something about that?
Well, dance is experiencing an unprecedented visibility in entertainment right now. So when I grew up dancing, it was all about the art, and now we've had a commingling of art and entertainment. And that's been great for dance schools. There's more interest than ever, but there's also an underside to that. And we've seen more and more kids at earlier and earlier ages being asked to participate in what would traditionally be considered adult dance activities. So we're seeing less in the costumes and more adult in the dancing, and that was concerning to me.
There's a whole sexualized side to the dancing industry.
Absolutely.
Tell me how you encounter that as a teacher of children.
Well, we encounter it everywhere we go. If it's not online, on YouTube, on MTV, it's in our dance competitions, and more importantly, it's in the palm of the hands of the students. This is what they're viewing what dance is and what they should aspire to, and we just want to show them a different way.
Who's driving the sexualization of children's dance?
I believe that it comes from the entertainment side. So when arts crossed over with entertainment, it definitely changed the value of art from being art itself and for training's sake to all about entertainment. And when you start leading with entertainment, the bar moves pretty fast. So all of a sudden it's not about what you're doing, but what you're wearing. It's not about who you are, but about who you know. And that's a dangerous slope to be showing to our kids. I mean, we have 12-year-old quote-unquote celebrities now in dance, and they're children. They're not celebrities. So it's been an interesting journey in the arts.
Give us some examples of things that alarmed you in this entertainment crossover. Are there some names I know? Are there some images that we would say, oh, that's what she means?
You know, I think anybody could go onto YouTube and find videos where literally tens of millions of views have been had, and there's 7 to 9-year-old kids dancing to songs that were clearly intended for adults. And it's that kind of exposure and visibility. We know that not 20 million dance students are watching it. That's maybe grown-ups who are watching it for reasons that wouldn't be something that you'd want to have, you know, an adult man watching little kids dancing for. So that's a specific example. And another example, I can point to social media. In social media, we have young dancers with tremendous followings. We're talking millions and millions of dancers and others looking up to them. So every move that they do is on display, for better or for worse. So between the visual media of YouTube and the social media, which lives in the palm of their hands, those two specific examples are driving a lot of what our kids are looking up to and saying, that's what winning looks like. That's what I want to achieve in dance. And sometimes it's great, but sometimes it's not a great message.
Because we enter our children into dance for confidence, for poise, for just the joy of the athleticism of it. Is that still part of the dance world?
It's absolutely part of the dance world, but that's not the story that's being told. We don't see the Instagram accounts celebrating what's all right and good about having kids involved with dance, and we're not seeing that get millions of hits on YouTube. On YouTube, what we're seeing is the seedier side of dance. That's what's driving the views and the ratings and the followings. And what we want to do as an organization is to highlight what is right and good about getting kids involved in the arts. And it's everything that you talked about. We know that 90% of the kids who grow up in our dance schools are not going to become professional dancers, but they're going to take those life skills of perseverance, dedication, joy of dance, appreciation for arts. I mean, even as simple as when you fall down, you have to get up, and we want kids to learn to finish what they start. Those are the skills that they will take out of dance that will benefit them for years to come through their college, career, and marriage.
So you're a mother of 5. You have a lot of busy things to do. You were a dance school instructor. You could have just said, the industry is irredeemable. You have tackled this with, I think you've got 177 schools now.
Yes.
With a very different tone for dance.
We do.
Tell me why you didn't just throw the towel in and say, it's an irredeemable art.
You know, I love the quote from Mother Teresa, and she said, if you would just sweep your own doorstep, the whole world would be clean. And the idea is just, if I can't do everything, I can at least do what's in front of me. And I just kept doing that one small yes at a time. So I did my own activities to what I felt like the Lord was calling me to do. And then I was a part of public speaking and speaking at the national conferences. And I brought what we did locally to that platform. And then once we were at that platform, then people started asking for coaching and advice. And all of these small yes decisions over the course of 20 years led to now leading 177 schools in our association that serves 68,000 kids a week.
So tell us what those 177 schools, what those children will hear.
We want those children to hear that they are more than dancers, because I think so much of our message in the industry is all about dance, and that our identity is in dance. I mean, we say, I'm a dancer, 100% dancer, and I'm gesturing to myself because we wear it on t-shirts. We see kids, walking around saying, dance is life. Dance is not life. It's a very, very fun, cool part of life, but it's not life. These kids have a whole life. They have a family life, an academic life, a community life, a social life, a faith life. There's more to them than just being a dancer, so we want them to know that their identity is not in dance. It's an important part of their life, but when that part of their life ends, they still have great worth and value.
Because you source your identity, not in dance, even though you had the highest dancing accolades. Tell me about your identity and what's driving this sense.
Yeah, my identity really comes back to a struggle I had in my 16-year-old life. And I remember feeling that my identity was in dance and that I didn't measure up. I just always had this little voice in my ear nipping at me saying, you're not good enough, you're not tall enough, long enough, blonde enough, strong enough, whatever it was. I just felt like I wasn't enough. And I swallowed that hook, line, and sinker, and that became my worldview, that I didn't measure up to the world's standards. And over the course of time, God really just unraveled that lie in my heart and let me know that I am enough and that my worth was set at birth, and it was 100%. And it doesn't matter what I achieve or what I don't achieve. That doesn't change His love for me, and that's very, very freeing. And once you know that your worth is in your Creator and that He's given you a God-given mission on this earth, now you're free to run after that because it doesn't matter what the world says.
How did you know that God had set your worth at your birth and nothing you could do would diminish you in His eyes? How did that land?
It didn't land. It was revealed to me over time. I think a lot of people have these great mountaintop faith stories where they went to a conference and God spoke to them, or they had this emotional experience. And for me, it was really, I met the Lord when I was a child, but I walked away from Him in my teen and early adult years. And I remember going back to church because I had just run out of options. I had, tried walking the world's way and I was left empty. I had tried being a 4.0 straight A student. I still wasn't satisfied. And I finally kind of threw up my hands and said, God, if you're real, I'm going to go back to the church and see if they can help me find meaning. And I would go on those Sundays, and I'd walk out with such a sour attitude. And I would say, this is brainwashing, and this is, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm back on my path. But somehow on Sunday morning, I'd show back up at that little church where my grandma was in the third row on the left-hand side. And I kept showing up week after week, and God just chipped away the crust that I had allowed to build up at my heart, just chasing, what I thought was the world's value. And eventually, when all of that was broken off, my true value was exposed, and it was in Him, and it was 100%.
And do you hope you can help children find that, or how does that come through in the dance?
I think it's such a great thing to tell kids through dance, because kids in dance listen to music. They're informed through music, movement, choreography, media. Their world is informed through those experiences. So we have just a unique distribution channel for this message that you're fearfully and wonderfully made. You have a hope and a future. You have this worth that was set at 100% at birth. And they might not listen to that in a church. They might not listen to that from their parents. But because they're so in tune with music and movement and messaging and media, if they hear that message in those avenues, they might listen. And that's our great hope.
Mothering 5 children in their preteen stages, how do you blend all this? What's your role and your vision to be a mom?
My first role, of course, is to be a wife and a mom, and that was a little upside down in my first years of business. As a startup and a dance school owner, it was all nights and weekends, and a lot of times it was 18 hours around the clock, and that worked for a period of time when my children were home, and I was they weren't at school, and I was home during the day, and my husband came home after work, and I went to the school in the evening. But when I started sending my kids off to school, I said, there's no way that I want them to be in school all day and for me to be at the dance school all night. And I had to start making choices so that I could keep that family in first place. And over the years, I decreased the teaching as every child was born. I took a few more classes off my plate until I ended up taking a 5-year sabbatical from the classroom. And I remember people questioning and saying, I can't believe that at what people would say is the top of your career, that you would walk away from the classroom. I mean, your dance school is built on the classroom. And I would say to them, I can always teach another class, I can always do another dance, take another check, but I never get a second chance to raise my kids. And that's something that we're firmly planted on, that's our first priority, so that in serving all of these kids, we have to make sure that we don't give up serving our own family. That's our first calling.
I'm looking forward to reading your book, One Small Yes. This is what your life is about.
It
Just
is.
always saying yes to the right thing for God. that God
Yeah,
has
saying
for you.
yes to the best thing. And what we have to understand is that every yes is a no to something else. So when you're saying yes, if I'm saying yes to teaching 5 days a week right now, I'm saying no to my family. And I am back in the classroom 1 day a week, but because it works for our family right now and because it works for the school. So I always try to remind myself that a yes to one thing is a no to something else. So I try to make the best yes decisions I can.
You are a wonderful example of what results when you do that. Misty Lown, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me,
Author
Lauren.
of One Small Yes and the founder of More Than Just Great Dancing. Thank you for teaching kids how to dance.
Thank you for having us.